Exoprimal is, at its core at least, partially a hero shooter, and while there are a number of unique characters with novel abilities, capable of inflicting death in a number of interesting ways, at the end of the day they still need to be able to survive long enough to land those abilities. That's why they need someone who can absorb shots, draw the enemy's attention, and provide them with a wall. In other words, they need a tank. While there are only 3 types of tank exosuits in Exoprimal, they all feel completely different from each other. Moreover, they aren't necessarily suited for the same types of situations. That's why we're going to provide you with a breakdown of their abilities, as well as the best ways to utilise them in combat. So let's get started. There are 3 tank class suits in the game, or at least that's what the game tells you. The truth is there are 2 assault class units that have some tanking ability, and 1 true tank, and that true tank is Roadblock. Roadblock's Haymaker attack string sees the exosuit swing at their enemy with its fists. This does okay damage, but you really shouldn't be looking for kills with it. The primary purpose is for recharging Roadblock's shield durability. The ballistic wall is quite simply incredible. It absorbs a tremendous amount of damage, you can use it as frequently as you like until it shatters, and you can recharge its durability by landing haymakers. It is fantastic against dinosaurs and other players alike. It won't hold against the most bombastic attacks, so don't get any cute ideas when you're fighting the T-Rex. Still, against most attacks it will hold strong. When you are fighting other teams in PvP, or when you're trying to defend a position, this shield can be the difference maker for your team. And when you're defending with the shield, you can use the shield blast to damage every enemy wedged up against your shield. This is a great attack for damaging large groups of dinosaurs, since it blows all enemies back a decent amount, and it can also give you some much needed space when you're being swarmed. Roadblock's next ability is the Skid Dodge. It's a rocket-powered dash, and in a pinch it can be used to make a hasty retreat. There isn't much to this one, it's an evasive maneuver, and it serves that purpose well enough. Moving on to Roadblock's next ability, the Taunt. If you've ever tanked in an MMO, then you know exactly what the Taunt ability is. This is your method for pulling aggro. If you want to get the attention of all nearby dinos, then this is your go-to ability. And finally, we have Roadblock's Overdrive, the Storm Drive. When it comes to group clearing attacks, it is hard to argue with the Storm Drive. This is a devastatingly powerful attack, and it's brilliantly useful for scooping up and damaging a large group of foes, and it's great for PvP as well. Roadblock is quite simply the quintessential tank type exosuit. The ballistic wall will keep your entire party safe from oncoming damage, and Roadblock is always capable of pulling the attention of every nearby dinosaur with its taunt ability. As far as PvP combat is concerned, if the 2 teams are equally matched in skill, but one team has a roadblock and the other team doesn't, the team with the roadblock will probably win. It is that simple. Roadblock can provide an impenetrable wall that your team is able to shoot through, and in PvP that is a tremendous advantage. However, while Roadblock is a brilliant exosuit and quite possibly one of the best in the game, it does have one notable shortcoming. It has pretty lackluster damage output. In this area, it is clearly outclassed by every other exosuit in the tank class. Ultimately, when you need a tank, Roadblock is the exosuit for you. However, in earlier encounters, you may find that the mediocre damage output drags your team down a hair, so you might want to wait to swap into Roadblock until later in the game. That being said, if your team is filled with squishy exosuits, Roadblock can help compensate for that quite nicely. And now let's move on to the next tank, Krieger. Of all the tanks, Krieger is probably the least tanky of the bunch. Not that this exosuit isn't durable, it is very durable, and it does have protective abilities. However, it feels a little more like an extremely durable assault class exosuit than a true tank. Krieger's minigun is extremely potent. It can sustain a prolonged line of fire for a staggeringly long period of time. It does take some time to ramp up though. It is also worth noting that while it technically has infinite bullets, you will need to cool the gun down after sustaining fire for a prolonged period of time. However, Krieger does have a signature module that can eliminate the minigun's ramp up time, and this is an absolutely vital investment if you plan to play the character, but you need to reach level 4 before you can unlock it. Next, let's talk about Krieger's stunlock missiles. These are yet another attack that helps increase the exosuit's DPS. One of the best qualities of the stunlock missiles is that you can fire them off while shooting your minigun without interrupting it, so whenever it's available you should use these missiles as soon as possible. If you hold the button down while aiming, you will lock onto a target, so just release the button and let the missiles rip. Krieger also has an ability called Thruster Dash, which is similar to Roadblock's Skid Dodge. It's basically a dash ability, and it can be used to get some distance from the enemy. It isn't stunningly quick, but Krieger isn't moving any faster than this, so you'll need to take what you can get. While Krieger is mainly damage focused, he does have one big defensive ability, the Dome Shield. When you use this ability, Krieger will place down a giant protective dome. It's better than nothing, and it does shield a huge area. However, you will find that it shatters pretty quickly. Still, it can save your entire party in a pinch, and it also pairs extremely well with the Witch Doctor's repair field. If your party is getting hammered, you can place the Dome Shield down and it will provide the Witch Doctor enough time to heal the party back. However, large dinosaurs will instantly break this shield, but they will be stunned at the same time. So you can use this move offensively to stagger bigger dinosaurs. And now let's move on to his overdrive, which has a name I'm going to struggle to pronounce, Toad's Region. And look, we're going to be straight with you. His overdrive is pretty underwhelming. It covers a giant area with a marker, missiles will then rain down on said area sporadically, causing explosions all over. This is only really super useful when you're fighting a giant horde of dinosaurs. Don't get us wrong, it will still kill a ton of dinosaurs, and even in PvP it will put a lot of pressure on the opposing team and help pin them down. It just doesn't have the same wow factor as the other overdrive attacks. There are two good questions that need answering here. Is Krieger a good exosuit? And is Krieger a good tank? As a tank, Krieger is only okay. In a pinch, that shield dome can be a huge lifesaver, and the amount of space it covers is absolutely massive, so that's great. But that's it in terms of tanking. Krieger can pop up a shield in a pinch, but beyond that, it's mainly focused on dishing out damage. So, of all of Krieger's abilities, that is the only truly tanky one. That being said, Krieger can most certainly dish out a respectable amount of damage, and while this suit may not be able to tank hits for its allies all that often, Krieger is built like a literal tank, and has the durability that one would expect such a robust robot to have. One of the huge advantages of Krieger being so sturdy is that it makes his exosuit a stabilizer for the party. Support characters won't have to worry about you as much, and you will be able to pull your weight when it comes to dealing damage. It's worth noting that Krieger can work alongside a Roadblock brilliantly. It can act as a secondary tank, putting up its barricade whenever Roadblock has its shield shattered, and as we've already stated, it won't hurt your DPS output having two tanks, as Krieger does a ton of damage. Ultimately, if the team is in desperate need of a tank, we don't think you should default to Krieger. However, if you're looking for an incredibly sturdy assault exosuit that can also provide some limited tanking, then Krieger is the exosuit you're looking for. This also means that Krieger pretty much fits on every team. Krieger's abilities are perfectly suited to deal with most of what the game throws at you. There is no team that Krieger doesn't make sense on, unless, that is, the one thing the team needs is a true tank. Murasame is the third exosuit, and initially it's locked away. Once you finally have access to this sword-swinging tank unit, you will see that Murasame has a lot of unique perks and feels like it acts as an in-between option when compared to the tank-first gameplay Roadblock and the primarily offensive-focused Krieger. Murasame has a standard combo melee attack that does very respectable damage, and it's great for clearing out large groups of dinosaurs clustered together. However, being completely melee-based, this attack is extremely ineffective against large groups of the roster in PvP. This tank also has another melee ability called Crescent Moon, and this attack does pretty moderate amounts of damage, but its primary focus is drawing the attention of any dinosaur it hits. This is basically Murasame's version of the taunt. You will want to use this attack to both draw attention away from your more vulnerable teammates, as well as to help land more counters. However, this is a pretty ineffective tool in PvP encounters. Murasame's signature move is the Vajra counter. This exosuit lives and dies by how effectively it can use this move. When the Vajra counter is active, Murasame will absorb all damage. Once this exosuit has absorbed enough damage, it can unleash a hugely damaging attack. Murasame will then be buffed for a period of time afterwards. Simply put, this counter is the centerpiece of Murasame's gameplay. Murasame also has a move called the Strafe Hook, which is an extremely effective tool for traversal. With it, Murasame can scale tall objects and maneuver quickly around the battlefield. It also has a powerful follow-up attack associated with it. And finally, we have Murasame's Overdrive, the Maikyo Shusui. Bad pronunciation of the name aside, this is an absolutely fantastic overdrive attack. The longer you hold it, the more damage you'll do. It has a large area of effect and does massive damage. This makes the move both effective for dealing heavy damage to large dinosaurs, while also making it a fantastic attack for clearing out large groups. It's very, very good. Possibly the best overdrive of all the tanks, and is easily among one of the best overdrives in the game. Murasame is a very good all-around option for someone who wants to tank, but also wants to be an offensive force on the battlefield. Through skillful use of the Crescent Moon and Vajra counter, The exosuit is quite capable of tanking effectively, however it isn't nearly effective as Roadblock's shield and taunt combination. To get the most out of Murasame, you'll be looking to land that Vajra counter-attack special very frequently, and it's a brilliant way to both clear out mobs and deal hefty damage to the more powerful dinosaurs. This means that a Murasame who is on their game can both effectively tank and clear out enemies simultaneously. That isn't even taking into account the fantastic traversal the hook provides, or the impressive power of its overdrive attack. However, Murasame just isn't a strong exosuit when fighting other players. Sure, if you utilise the counter well and you're able to effectively use your strafe hook to close the distance, Murasame can battle a number of different units, but at the end of the day, Vigilant is likely going to eat Murasame's lunch nearly every time the two exosuits battle each other, and Murasame has almost no way to deal with Skywave. Hell, even Roadblock and Nimbus can be very tough matches for this exosuit. Murasame is an excellent exosuit for the majority of missions in the Dino Survival mode. When used effectively, Murasame is able to simultaneously play the role of tank and assault unit. This makes Murasame a fantastic option for players looking for a versatile tank or a sturdy assault unit. However, once you enter a PvP scenario, it's probably time to swap out your exosuit, as Murasame quite simply has too many counterpicks working against it. They just aren't really built to excel in PvP situations. So, there's our guide to the free tank exosuits in Exoprimal. Personally, I'm a pretty big Roadblock guy myself, but I've been Luke Gould, thanks for watching, and check out thegamer.com for more.